Okay, I think we are live on Facebook. That was Calling 911. That's a song that I wrote to support awareness around domestic violence. And my name is Jasmine Sandler. I want to welcome everyone for being on today. It's a very critical and important issue that we're going to tackle today. I am not the expert, so I brought in three experts on the subject of domestic violence, how it affects families, women, children, and we're going to talk about that today and how these three ladies are involved in helping with this effort. So I'll start by just letting everybody know a little bit about Warrior Women in Business. I'm sure there's folks on today that have never listened to the podcast or attended one of our Warrior Women in Business events. So Warrior Women in Business is a podcast, event series, and conference that I produce and manage. And the whole purpose of it is to help women in business come together in a mentoring mentee situation, as well as provide them with opportunities for business development. And then there's a whole piece of it on helping women in general. And I have a real passion for helping women in the home. I grew up in a family of domestic violence, and I think it's a subject that gets overshadowed many times. And now, as we were talking about pre-show today, unfortunately, I think right now, because everyone has a stay-at-home order, it's something that's just become visible in the media, and I wanted to make people more comfortable and let folks know what support is out there, what resources are out there, so they're not afraid. Again, my name is Jasmine Sandler. I run a company called JS Media, and our primary focus is helping women develop in business. So that being said, I'd like to introduce our three panelists today. I'm going to start with Jennifer DiCarlo, who is on, she's waving here, straight from the mayor's office. The mayor's office to end gender-based and domestic violence is the group that I worked with to put together an event on December 9th where we raised awareness. We had a silent auction, we had a show, it was great. And that was just one small thing. We want to do a lot more to help women and help families that are, burdened by domestic violence. So I have Jennifer on. I have Catherine Manning on, if you want to wave, Catherine. So Catherine is coming in from Washington, D.C. She was just introduced to me by a dear friend of mine, Leslie Grossman, who does a lot to support women globally. And I was very excited. Catherine is a nationally recognized expert on victim rights and services. As a senior attorney advisor with the Executive Office for the U.S. Attorneys for 15 years, she advised the Justice Department on the most challenging victim issues it causes, ranges from terrorism to large-scale financial fraud to child exploitation. So you see, it's not just a small issue. Unfortunately, it's a big issue. So thank you for being here today. And then I have the lovely Luisa Diaz Brown. Here, you can wave, Luisa. And so Luisa is amazing. Luisa is the founder and CEO of a gala that raises money for Safe Passage. And she also is just really someone that believes, like me, in the power of bringing women together to end domestic violence. I was actually involved in her gala last year at the Cutting Room. It was just a tremendous production, and I'm excited to have you on, Luisa. So
thank you.
Yep. So that being said, I'm going to kick right into the questions. So just to let all the Facebook audience know, the questions here will last about 40 minutes, and then we will go right into audience Q&A. So you can use the chat box in Facebook Live to type in any of your questions that we'll answer at the end. So question number one is, domestic violence is an issue that's personal many times. As I know, as honestly, Luisa and I, when we first jumped on the phone, we're crying to each other. It's just it's so personal, So can each of you, and I'm going to start at the top, so if you two could go on mute until I call you. Can each of you talk about why and how you personally got involved with supporting the end of the problem of domestic violence? So Jennifer, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. So first, I just want to say thank you, Jasmine, for inviting our office to participate in this really important podcast today. You're exactly right that we are all under stay-at-home orders across most of this country, and staying home is not actually safe for so many people out there. And so I really appreciate you calling attention to this really important issue. As Jasmine said, I work for the Mayor's Office to End Domestic and Gender-Based Violence. It's a mouthful. We say NGBV. And I am an assistant commissioner there, which basically means I oversee the city's 5 family justice centers. And really for me, you know, domestic violence is such a personal issue. And I myself experienced teen dating violence when I was in high school and college. And so I think I saw from a very young age how easy it was to get trapped in these type of controlling relationships. And so as I went forward in my school and went through college and then went to law school eventually, I really wanted to use the law for good, to really lift up survivors and really help them utilize the law in a way that could help them escape these situations when they felt ready to do so. And so I've dedicated most of my professional career to doing that. And it really came from that place of it happened to me. It can happen to anyone. You're exactly right.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. I just want to say that you are definitely someone, there needs to be more of you, because I think, in at least my experience, and Luisa will talk about this, but you know, in talking to Luisa and being involved with her event, a lot of women don't talk about, they don't get up and do something about it. And I mean, I'm really sorry what happened to you, but I also applaud you for what you've done.
Thank you.
Okay, so Catherine, I'm going to go to you.
Hi, I also wanted to say thank you so much for creating this forum to talk about this issue right now. It's so important to talk about every day, but especially right now. I too have a family history of domestic violence. I think so many people can come to this work through this doorway. Fortunately for me, my mother had the resources and the wherewithal to be able to leave my father, and so I did not ultimately grow up in an abusive household. But as soon as I got to college, I started volunteering at the local domestic violence shelter, and that really sort of framed my work and my career from then until today. That's really been my entryway into doing victim work, which has been so pivotal and important for my entire life.
Yeah, wow. Again, you know, that's what it is. We kind of have to take it into our own hands, you know. So I applaud you as well. Okay, I'm going to jump to Luisa. Luisa.
Thank you, Jasmine, for having me. Hi, ladies. Nice meeting you virtual. The new world. So I got involved, you know, I do these beautiful galas to raise money for domestic violence and other women's issues and children. And people ask me like, why do you do that? For some reason at the beginning, I knew, but I didn't want it to accept it to myself. But when sorry, we have a phone call. When I really was looking inside myself, inside why I'm doing this. So I grew up with my grandparents, and I adore my grandparents. I grew up in Venezuela, and my grandfather, unfortunately, abused my grandmother real bad, and sometimes we have to sleep on the street, and that I was 5 years old, so that really got me. So, but I didn't know how much. When I started doing my events, when I was and I have an opportunity to give back to the community, I said I wanted to do it to domestic violence survivors, yet I didn't know why. I remember my grandmother, and I love my grandmother, and she is my hero. And she has 15 kids, 15. Can you imagine? 15 children. So in the first gala, I was not be able to talk about it. And so I'm partnered with an organization called Safe Passage, which they have been working with domestic violence over 20 years. In the first year, I didn't talk about it. I led the organization to talk about it. Yet when people start asking me questions, I was not even ready to talk about it yet. So I had to go through the program to Safe Passage to heal, because it does affect you as a little girl, as a child. It does affect you. So that's what I call my inspiration and my passion to work with domestic violence survivors, come to offer opportunities to women, the opportunities that my grandmother never had. And I do what I do in honor to my beloved grandmother.
I love it. And God rest my grandmother's soul. I think our grandparents are so important to us, you know?
Yeah, she saved me.
Yeah.
But I must say my grandmother, she got the strength with 15 children to leave my grandfather. Can you imagine? No an education. She has no education, no job, and she left my grandfather. I was 8 years old, and she never looked back.
Yeah, strength. Yeah. So I'm gonna move on to the next question here. So each of you represents a different type of audience, from families to single women that are affected to coworkers. So I'd like each of you to talk about your specific organization or service, like in 2 minutes or less, who it helps and how. So I'm going to start with Jennifer.
Sure. So as I mentioned, I work at the mayor's office, NGBV, and we are a mayoral office dedicated to coordinating New York City's delivery of services to domestic and gender-based violence. So I report to a commissioner, and that is our charge. Within my office, I oversee the city's kind of front-facing services that are called family justice centers. There is 5 of them in New York City, 1 in every borough. And we serve anyone who identifies as a survivor of domestic or gender-based violence. In my office, the staff that report to me coordinate those services at the centers, and they act as one-stop shopping centers, for lack of a better way to describe it. And really the goal is you can walk in without appointments. All services are free, and they are client-centered, meaning the client chooses what services they want to engage with. And that may be filing a police report if they feel like that would be would enhance their safety. Maybe they don't feel that would be, and they want to talk to a lawyer about filing for an order of protection or learning about their rights or doing safety planning. And so we will serve anyone, regardless of gender identity, regardless of income, it doesn't matter. Whoever identifies as experiencing domestic or gender-based violence, we're here for you in the city. And we partner with over 40 not-for-profits who provide those services in collaboration with the city at each of those centers.
So when you say one-stop shop, you know, so if someone comes, whether it's can it be anybody? Just quickly, you know, is it, so if a woman comes, a man comes, a child comes in, doesn't really matter. And so, you're kind of, are you the resource point? So if they come in, you can help them.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, Jasmine. We're like a resource hub, and we can work with any one adult who experiences it, as if they're single or if they're in a family. We can help their children, and we can help teens that may be experiencing teen dating violence. If a child came in without a parent, we would need to be working with parent, right? But as long as it's an adult seeking services, their children can also seek those services, or teens.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. Catherine. Who does your organization serve? Tell us about it a little bit.
Yeah, so as you heard, I spent about 15 years advising the Justice Department on victim issues on a range of different topics. And about a year ago, I left DOJ and set up my own firm, which advises organizations, whether they be corporate, educational, or other government institutions, on how they work with victims. And that can be domestic violence, and certainly that is an issue. Every time I have talked to any corporate leader, domestic violence has come up because so many organizations are dealing with it. As well as a range of other issues, like it could be workplace violence or stalking or fraud, even sexual harassment. One of the things that I learned through working with all these different diverse types of crime is that trauma is fundamentally the same. You know, it can vary by degree, but when the crisis comes, like we are experiencing right now, we all sort of need the same things. And so that's my role, is to help advise on what those things are. I also have a book coming out next year, The Empathetic Workplace, 5 Steps to let me get it right, calm, compassionate, and confident response to trauma on the job. So that's my role, is really to help organizations respond effectively to trauma and victimization.
So I have a quick just comment, a question for you there. So I noticed what I'm happy about in New York City right now is all of the resources that are being made available right now, specifically around mental health. So that being said, you know, I'm just wondering, you know, Catherine and Jennifer, how do you tie into mental health services and what you do? Just Catherine, can you comment on that first?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that is so important when you're trying to support a workforce or members of the public who are going through a traumatic experience is to have a Rolodex of resources. And so I actually have, I've put together like a one-pager of resources that are national in scope. I'm sure Jennifer has, I can't even imagine how many available to you in New York City. But it's really important that I think one of the things, particularly in domestic violence, to keep in mind is we don't want to come in and take over, right? So this person is already under the control of the abuser. We don't want to come in and say, well, let me tell you what you have to do, and I'm going to just make that call for you, or I'm going to set this up. We always have to remember that that abused person is in the best position to assess their safety and what steps they should be taking. So our role to support them is to provide them with resources that they need and want, and to be continuing to support them on their path to safety and healing from this.
Thank you. Jennifer, anything you want to add just on that point about mental health services?
Sure. I think it's a really important point, and part of the kind of array of services that we offer at the Family Justice Centers includes a mental health services component. So we offer therapists and psychiatrists who specialize in trauma-informed counseling for survivors of domestic violence and gender-based violence. And then the city also has NYC Well, which I'm sure people, if you're listening in the city, you've heard of NYC Well, where you can text or call for mental health support 24 hours a day with crisis counselors.
That's fantastic. Okay, Luisa, so can you talk about your organization specifically? Who have you seen it serve the most? Like who attends the galas? Who tends to reach out to you? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Okay, well, my organization is called Mi Amor Gala, and you know, that's what Mi Amor Gala is a celebration of kindness. So we celebrate the great things that you all ladies are doing. So I celebrate kindness. So what I do with Say Pass is I raise money for them because I love what Say Pass is doing. I love the program. And one thing that Catherine was talking about is it's extremely important that the lady is ready to receive the information, because you cannot make nobody to change their life. We can support as much, but all the work that has to be done is from her. So we give them all the support that she needs. We give them counseling. We have plastic surgeon as well, because sometimes the women has been cut their faces or their teeth. Totally pro bono. This amazing doctor, they can fix their faces, they can fix their teeth. We give them counseling. We help them with the self-esteem. We help them to find a job. We help them to write the business plans. They are into business. So I love the program of Say Pass, and that's what I do. I raise money. And you were in the gala, and Jasmine, and one of the things that Mi Amor Gala has is the empowerment fashion show, where I celebrate the new beginning of these resilient ladies, because I do believe in opportunities. And that's what I do, and that's what I love to celebrate in the new beginning of this lady, because we all need second chances, and I do believe in opportunities.
Yeah, I love it. And like I did see that. I mean, you know, that's how we aligned. And, you know, I love that your mission is helping women get back on their feet. And
yes.
I actually like to talk about the plastic surgery, because it's important, you know, when when a woman is starting her new life coming from domestic violence, whether it's as a teen or as a young woman, that's a critical component of them feeling good about themselves. So
totally, yes,
yeah. So I just want to move on to the next question,
okay,
because it's really important, and I just want to make sure we're on time. We have a lot to cover today.
Okay.
So the UN reported this week, and this actually, there was a lot of stats I've been reading. There was a piece in the New York Times that I sent out that was fantastic. The journalist who wrote it, unfortunately, she couldn't be on today, but I'll send it over we'll send everybody a link on Facebook as well to this article on kind of deep research on what's happening right now. And when I was doing my research, I found that the UN reported, because I wanted a global look, that across the board globally, domestic violence surge has doubled within the time of COVID since its beginning. So it's obviously devastating. And it's getting, I would assume it's getting worse as more places go on lockdown, right? Like some of the states right now that aren't on lockdown, that will go on lockdown. So I want to understand what each of you are seeing and doing, like on the front lines, action-based, that's helped lessen or treat this problem. I want to start with Jennifer.
So we are actually answering phone calls from 9 to, although our family justice centers had to physically close because the city has directed us all to stay at home for our own safety. We are still here and we're still available, and we're answering our main line from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. live, like a hotline. And we're able to serve survivors in the same way we would have served them if they came into our building. So we're hearing from survivors who are telling us that they need help, right? They're staying at homes with abusive partners. We're having to do safety planning over the phone for when we're able to call them back. Giving them advice like, perhaps if you have a dog, take the dog for a walk and we can talk to you, right? Or go into the bathroom and run the water and, things like that, so that they can have these safe conversations. And so we're still we're hearing from survivors on the ground. We're also making sure that we're spreading awareness in New York City, that the city is here. The city is here with resources. Our centers are open remotely, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Our hotline is open 24 hours. Safe Horizon runs that in the city. And then we have a domestic violence web-based portal that I would encourage everyone to check out. It's called NYC Hope, super easy to remember. And we've been pushing that out through text alerts in the city. So we did
I got the text.
Yay, that makes me happy. We're going to try to do that weekly, and we're seeing those numbers of visits like skyrocket from where we were pre-COVID. So there's been a couple of articles that we've done in the media talking about that thus far, and so we're hoping that people will be able to find those resources through our portal, and then we'll be able to continue to serve survivors through our hotlines and our shelter system, which is still open, as well as our family justice centers and our community organizations.
Okay, so one question I'd like to ask Jennifer too on this. Are you seeing, because I'm right now in Queens, so it's crazy. So are you seeing any area that's more affected, any gender, like anything on stats, like what's happening? Yeah. We want to know what's happening,
Sure. We haven't, we're getting the stats kind of every day from the center about the number of calls, and we're fielding about anywhere from like 45 to 75 calls a day from across the 5 family justice centers. And it primarily lines up stat-wise with what we saw before, which is about 85% of our clients identify as female, and the others identify as male. So the gender is pretty much lining up. We haven't been able to dig deep yet into like the demographic, but we're getting those calls in every single borough. So we're seeing that this is impacting the whole city.
Oh, geez. And do you think, and just one more question, do you think that, and this could get into a bigger topic, but do you think that the cases that you're getting now, are they new domestic violence cases? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is it happening because of COVID and staying home? Or do you think, or do you know if the domestic violence was happening before and now it's just escalating? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. We are seeing a mix of clients calling our main lines at the centers that were already engaged in services, right? And so we're reconnecting them to legal organizations and counseling agencies and maybe the police if they had wanted and felt safe to make a report. But we are seeing we're seeing new callers call in for help as well. And we're seeing people call in where things are definitely exacerbated by the fact that the isolation is going up, right? You're not able to go home, and the anxiety and stress from maybe losing jobs and not having financial support. So we are hearing that from survivors. So I don't necessarily think it's that a new case of domestic violence is occurring. I think though that the situation is exacerbated because of the fact that people are being directed for their own safety to be staying at home.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm going to move on. So Catherine, what are you seeing there? I mean, you're in a different state, so in a different city. So we would love to know kind of what's going on there. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I'm hearing the same thing, that the shelters are still operating, they're still supporting survivors, they're trying their hardest to offer the same range of services. Some of the courts are you can't go into court, but most of the judges are offering telephonic hearings, and so you can still get restraining orders. But it's just an uptick. I'm hearing, roughly 20% more calls and outreach texts for support right now since the coronavirus started. One of the things as well that I think we should give some thought to is how the economics is impacting things.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. I was going to ask about, I don't know who this is to, but I was going to ask, and I'm more city services, I would assume, but you know, what is the reprieve that's being given? Because most couples get divorced because most, you know, stats say, or because of financial issues. So what is being done to help people financially? Because I think finance and domestic violence kind of go hand in hand. So I don't know if there's anything any of you can talk about from that perspective. Jennifer, is there anything you can talk about there?
Yeah, I mean, we've been getting calls from survivors who have really good, concrete questions about, am I getting that stimulus check that the federal government talked about, right? You know, can I still apply for public assistance? You know, can I apply for food stamps? And so we are able to offer remote services over the phone and help people apply for some of those services online because the city has changed. We've all had to change the way that our services are actually working now, right? Service provision. So we've been able to do that. And we actually have a relationship with some financial planning associations, and we've been able to like ask them questions, because I don't know about all of you, but I am not a financial expert. And so we need to partner with people that have that, you know, knowledge base. And so we've been able to leverage some of those partnerships as well that we're really grateful for.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like, you know, certainly with healthcare is all of the restrictions, just so anybody knows who's listening, have been completely lifted when it comes to healthcare. I'm a small business owner. That's why I know that. But I was thinking, you know, also food stamps and housing and all of these things, I would imagine the services have changed. And so people should call for help, right? Okay, good. Catherine, was there anything else you wanted to say? I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to talk about the challenge if people have lost their jobs, getting health insurance, you know, their own concerns about being able to control their money. Are they going to get the check, or is their partner going to control that for them? It can be a very, very scary time when you feel precarious already financially, to then have a giant economic sort of seismic shift like we're experiencing right now can throw everything up in the air and just cause further conflict and further insecurity.
Yeah, no, seismic is definitely the word, and no one knows what's truly going to happen, but the economy, you know, we want to put it on hold, but it's hard to. And so I'm really happy that cities are stepping it up and governments are stepping it up. And also in the private sector, a lot of companies are stepping it up. Yes. And that's important. So Luisa, let me give you your couple of minutes here. So, you know, what are you seeing? You know, you know, I know that you have a community. Anything from your community that you want to talk about? What's happening there?
To add, I agree with Jennifer. To add to that, we are receiving more calls. We are receiving Safe Pass is receiving more calls. Also, we are continuing, Safe Pass is continuing to the counseling, the virtual counseling. We are doing it. So it's extremely important for the ladies, you know, to receive that counsel. And one of the things I wanted to add that is becoming such a crisis I think this is going to be like a new pandemic, that is the domestic violence to women and children through this isolation. It's like a shadow. It's like you know, it's going to like under. It's like under, and it's going to explode very big if we don't really do something about it, because the abuser a lot of them has lost their job, as both of you were mentioning, and also they are drinking. They are drinking at home, and the women and children are at risk to receive all the violence. And where do they go? One of the things I wanted to ask, I don't know if I'm allowed to ask Jennifer, but where did they go? Because I was reading an article that they are saying that right now the courts are not working here in New York. They are very limited hours, so women cannot really pursue the restriction order. So where do they go? What do they do?
Yeah. Yeah, and Jasmine is okay. I can answer
Yeah,
that.
please answer the question. Go right ahead.
So we are actually, you're totally right, Luisa, that physical buildings are closed, but New York State actually is operating virtual courts, and they are operating those for certain categories of cases. And one of those categories of cases is if someone is seeking a temporary order of protection. And so they can still hear those cases via phone. And there is information I'd be happy to share with Jasmine so it gets out there, because I think I'm so happy you raised it. I think it's so important for people to know this. And if people call our family justice centers from 9 to 5, we can actually connect clients with attorneys who can possibly draft those petitions and appear on their behalf, and they can at least get a legal consultation. So it is still available, but I think that just happened within the last week or so, and so I think it's really important that we get the word out about that.
Yes, because we are in the position, we're receiving a lot of phone calls and women are afraid, but they don't know where to go.
Yeah. So we can definitely share that information.
That's great. No, I'm glad you asked that, Luisa, and Jennifer will provide that to everybody listening. So that actually gets into my next question. So, you know, I usually when I do a Warrior Women in Business podcast, just so you know, it's just like me and one other person. So, and I always ask what defines a warrior woman and a warrior, what do you think a warrior woman is, right? But in this case, I really want to understand, because I think a warrior woman in this case is a woman that supports another woman or supports someone who's being a victim of domestic violence. So I just want to understand, what advice would you have to someone like a neighbor, let's say, that hears it going on? Like, what did they do? I'm going to start with you, Jennifer.
So my advice would be that to be a warrior woman in this situation, and is to be informed and educated, and really take the time to understand how to support your neighbor. I think we're a little bit challenged by our social distancing, guidance, because we're not supposed to be within 6 feet of each other. And everything you want to do to help could possibly actually not be helpful if you're not first checking with the person, right, who's going through that abuse. So you may think it's helpful to stick a flyer under someone's door, but actually that might make it worse if the abusive partner sees that, right, and then is questioning, why is that flyer there? So I think if we're not dealing with social distancing times, I think the most important thing to do is to educate yourself. In this social distancing world, I think you can put up information about services on your apartment boards by mailboxes, right? Because people are still allowed to get exercise, right? So I think empower yourself about resources. We have a ton of them on NYC Hope. We have an updated page of resources for survivors, and make sure people know the city's hotline number, right? And NYC Hope. And that's, to me, being a real warrior and being aware of this issue right now.
I love it. Yeah, putting it up in your neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
Letting people know in the neighborhood. And in, New York City is mainly buildings with mailboxes.
Exactly.
I love that. Thank you. Catherine, what do you have to say on that?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think it's important to remember that the survivor has to be the expert on her own safety. So don't feel like it's your job to kind of swoop in and do something because you don't know the full context of everything that she's dealing with. But I think anything you can do to show yourself to be a listening ear, to listen without judgment, because often what people need is an escape valve. They need a chance to be able to talk about it to somebody who's not going to harangue them or judge them for it. So all of that is phenomenal. More resources outside of New York, because you guys you have so much there, but also Futures Without Violence is a national organization, and they have a phenomenal list of resources on their website right now. It's futureswithoutviolence.org. I would also say, if you are supporting somebody who is experiencing domestic violence, remember to take care of yourself as well, because it is really hard and scary and upsetting, and you don't know what to do, and you're worried that you're doing the wrong thing. Those hotlines, I mean, there's the National Domestic Violence Hotline. You can also go online to the hotline.org. They're available to you too. It's not only for the person who's in the abusive relationship. You can go on and they will brainstorm with you. They'll share resources. They'll support you as well. So remember to take care of yourself as you're taking care of others.
Yeah, I love that you said that. Just one quick thing before I go to Lisa. How I actually got in touch with the mayor's office is I called the National Domestic Violence Hotline, And they were just, the woman was on the phone with me for about an hour, just, talking to me about different resources and how someone that's not directly affected by domestic violence can get educated. So I'm glad you brought those resources up. Again, any resources we talk about, we will list them in Warrior Women in Business, just if anybody's listening needs these resources. So Luisa, can you talk about that, a little bit in terms of what have you seen and what's your advice on that?
Yes. First, I wanted to say what I think is a warrior woman, a warrior women, and it's that one that not only fight for herself but for others. So that's where I believe that that's a true warrior woman, right? It's out there. So with that said, I think we all have heard of a friend that has been abused by her boyfriend or partner. So it's important right now in this self-quarantine, let's check, let's send an email, a text message, let's FaceTime there to see how, when you see someone, because we can send a text and just say, I'm fine. But when you see it, we know, like if they have a, hit on her face and blue eye. So it's extremely important, just that act of kindness to check on someone that you think that might be in this situation, that you hear about it. And also, if you know this person is not answering to you for no circumstances, she's not texting you back, she's not calling you back, and her boyfriend or partner answered the phone, I think you should call the hotline. And I say, listen, I am worried about this specific person. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm worried about it. And they are anonymous. They will not disclose who you are, right, Jennifer? They will not disclose this information. So I think that's extremely important. Where we need to come together and reach to people that we know, people that we hear about it. And the most important is spread the information, because we might be able to save a life.
Yeah, thank you. That was excellent, Luisa. Thank you. So for listeners or people that are watching us now that want to volunteer, I don't know, I'll start with you, Jennifer. How can people volunteer for your organization or other organizations in the city?
So that's a bit of a challenging question just because of our current COVID
Right.
situation.
Yeah. In general.
Yeah, in general, we do take volunteers at the centers. We love volunteers. We often have our volunteers start unique programs based on their skill set. So we run a computer time program, for example, where we help people with resumes and looking for jobs, and we have volunteers that help us with that. And so people can reach out, and I'll provide my contact information, but we can kind of go from there because we're always looking for volunteers to help. And I think in general, Jasmine, just what we said, like educating yourself about this issue and how you can best support people and be kind, like Luisa said, and do it in a way that doesn't endanger someone's safety and respects their choices is really something all of us can do, right? And so I would encourage you to read our website at NYC Hope and to educate yourself about how you can be a warrior woman and really support people generally, right? Not just to go to a center and support somebody.
Right. And, it seems like it's you have to be educated. It's almost like you have to be certified in a way because, right? Am I right? Because it's not something it's like saying I want to volunteer and be a healthcare worker, which I do right now. I see
yeah.
And I want to run outside. And I'm like, but I'm not a healthcare worker.
Right.
So,
yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah. I think people, as one of us said, people really want to help, but it can be frustrating if you want to help and the way you think this should work isn't actually what the person wants, right? Like if you're saying, well, you should call the police, and then someone's going to say, well, actually, I think that might make it riskier for me, and that can frustrate people, right? And so it's really about learning how to give help in a non-judgmental and supportive way. And that can be challenging. And so I think you're right. You need to kind of have that training. And we do offer free training at the Family Justice Centers, and we require training of everybody who works on site at our centers because of that exact reason.
Thank you. Catherine, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, so I, started doing victim work through working on a domestic violence hotline. I think it is a tremendous experience. If anybody is at all interested, I advise you to go through the training and do it. It is really just an incredibly empowering and really, really impactful experience. To find your local domestic violence shelters, there's a website, domesticshelters.org, and you just type in your zip code and you can find whoever your local shelter is. And then you could just give them a call. I would suggest maybe calling their business line or emailing them to find out about trainings. Probably not happening right this second, right? But you could get in there for the next training. And then in terms of other things that we can do just in our daily lives, any kinds of groups, sororities, organizations, your workplace, any groups that you're involved with, do what you can to talk about domestic violence. It is so much more common than people realize. Like,
Right.
recent stats are 1 in 3 people have experienced some sort of intimate partner violence. So I think people don't recognize, they think, well, it couldn't be somebody in my sorority. Well, yeah, it probably could. So do what you can to get the word out about resources, show that you care, that this is an important issue, and you're a supportive listening friend. I think we have so much power to help each other every day just through those kinds of conversations.
I love that. One thing I want to add to that I think we really, and we're not going to have a lot of time to talk about it, but so we're talking a lot about the women that are affected, but because we are in isolation, people's tempers are getting shorter. I found in general, you don't have that release point in life, and I think so. Getting everybody educated, not that it's just domestic violence for women or couples. I think it's much bigger than that, and that's why I thought this was an urgent show today to talk about what are the resources, and these ladies are amazing giving us all these resources, but I want the audience to know that this isn't just about a man and a woman. This is a population issue, and so I think that they really should take advantage of the resources. Luisa, you want to add anything to that on volunteering?
Yes, definitely. During this pandemic, one good thing that's coming is humanity. People are coming together. And I love that, because sometimes you think people are not kind, and yes, they are kind. And during this crisis, they are showing it to us, and it's beautiful. So right now, what we can do, someone wants to be part, to spread the message. Spread the message. We need influencers to spread the message. Even if they just communicate the hotline. The nationwide hotline, the New York hotline. So just even that, you will be able to help someone. And also, if you are a professional, you are a counselor, we can do virtual counsel. You can counsel someone. So call the organization, and maybe the organization tell you and advise you what are the norms to follow through, how to counsel someone, a survivor of domestic violence. But I believe that a lot of people can help right now. If you are home and you feel like you are bored, which you shouldn't be bored. I know we are 24/7 at home. I'm here 24/7 with my husband. We are still not getting into each other's toes, but we might, who knows? But what I'm saying is there is so much you can do, and you can help, even though through this new world that is the virtual world. So yes.
Yeah. Even what you were talking about, Luisa, practicing kindness is an action. Yeah. You know what I mean? I feel like just even that, just thinking twice before you blow up at somebody, or you're stressed out because you lost your job, you have no money, all this and that. I think the first step is humanity. So I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Totally. And one thing, Jasmine, that we and Catherine and Jennifer, it is beautiful, and I'm so pleased to repeat that again, because I do believe in kindness, and I see such an enormous snowball of kindness going on to the world. Designers, Chanel, who makes, of course, couture gown, they're making masks. Manufacturing, they're doing this mask. We're doing, so this is amazing. I love that snowball of kindness that's going through the world.
Yeah, I do too.
That's the only good thing that's going on, because as we know, this is a tragedy, but every tragedy has a positive side.
Well, I thank you so much. I really agree. And I think that has to do with to use the word seismic, Catherine, because I love it, because it really is a seismic change in what's happening in the world. You know, you talked about a lot of these companies like Tesla,
Yes.
Medtronic, that used to be a client of mine. I love what they're doing. Eli Lilly, a lot of companies that I know that are kind of saying, all right, let's shut down our operations and let's
Yeah,
think about how we're going to help the human race. So
I love it.
I think that just the act of that will ripple and change things as we move forward. So that being said, we're at about 4:47. I just want to make a quick announcement, and then we're going to go into Facebook questions. Molly is going to be moderating, bringing those in. So again, I want to thank all of you for being on. I think this is such an important topic. And last fall, you know, I thought, okay, I did my part. I had an event. I was part of Luisa's event. I'm doing things. And now I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to do next quarter? But this is still such an issue, and it's growing. So as a quick announcement, Warrior Women in Business produces events, and they are events that have education on the business end of things for female entrepreneurs, also entertainment. And also we always do something to raise awareness and money for a specific organization, a nonprofit. So we have an event that's now been rescheduled 3 times, kind of driving me absolutely insane, but it's hard work. But we are having an event. We have the venue. So on May 25th, we are having our Warrior Women in Business Next event at the People's Improv Theater. Catherine, you're welcome. It's only a bus ride away. In New York City. And so the event will be, I have some top women in female leadership and speaking coming in. So it'll be educational, be entertainment, and on the entertainment end, and a portion of all the ticket proceeds, we're looking to give again to domestic violence support, because it continues to be an issue. And I want anybody that's listening to know, like, that what all of them are saying, that this isn't just about, it's just a little thing that's happening over there, and no, it's affecting humanity. So really, really important. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to go to Molly and see if she has any questions that are coming from Facebook that she can chat into our window here. And this may take a minute. Okay, so I'm just going to I'm going to read out some questions, and then we'll go around. So if I want to get my local women's group to raise awareness, an awesome question, for domestic violence, and to start to talk about domestic violence, how would you recommend I do that? So she has a local women's group, and she wants to get them involved. So I'll start with Jennifer.
Sure. So here in New York City, if you're in New York City, you could reach out to me. My office actually offers presentations and trainings and workshops. We'd be happy to come to you and do that, and talk to you about the issues and learn more about how you'd like to support this issue, and brainstorm with you if there are things you'd like to do in collaboration with us.
Great. So again, after the show, we'll be providing to anybody that's tuned in or wants the information, your information, and thank you for that. Catherine, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so let me tell you about something that our neighborhood does that I'm so psyched about. We have a neighborhood, what we call a giving group, and every quarter a family hosts an event that is, you know, often like a nighttime party or something, but it's a fundraiser for a particular organization. And so, you know, obviously we can't do it right now, but whenever the stay-at-home orders are lifted, think about it. I mean, so it was so much fun. We did the House of Ruth, which is our local domestic violence shelter. Somebody from the shelter came and spoke to all of our neighbors about the issue of domestic violence and how to get involved. A number of the neighbors have continued their relationship with House of Ruth because of that. And it was just such a really wonderful way to raise awareness in a way that was really fun for people. And it's something that just your own organization can do. It's not going to be, I'm sure, as classy as some of the galas that Luisa is throwing, but just for something that your own organization can do, it might be fun.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I would love to have fabulous ladies who would like to be part of my gala this year. Well, I'm thinking about, I do not know if we are going to be able to go and have a big gala this year. They are saying that we might not be able to have this big gathering. Yeah. But I would love to hear from you. Send me an email, and you're going to put my information there. Yeah. LuisaDiaz.com. Send me an email for Mi Amor Gala. And we will love to have you to help us to raise money for domestic violence survivors. And besides doing this amazing work and making some difference in someone else's life, the event is fabulous, it's beautiful. And so you accomplish to say you enjoy the event, at the same time you feel good that you are helping someone else's life.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Trish from Safe Passage, whom you know, Luisa and
yes.
She just put a comment and said that she's grateful, just so you know, all know, for what we're doing, and we're making a difference. So
yes, she's so grateful, and she knows that I'm here with you. And she's the founder of Safe Passage. I've been working with them for 6 years, as I mentioned before, and she's going to be here next year. So as well, this year, not next year, this year. So I'm going to put the website Safe Passage Heals for anyone as well who is in California and who would like to be directly working with Safe Passage and with this amazing program that they have.
Okay, great. And then the trailing question for that, Luisa, is for you. Do you take volunteers for your gala?
Yes, I do. Totally. I would love to be, as I mentioned, these amazing ladies who want to help me to organize these galas. Yes, I take volunteers.
Yeah, I think we all love volunteers.
Yeah, we all love volunteers.
Coming in and making a difference. And I found the people who are involved with my events, you know, I just think that's what it is. It's they feel like they're making a difference and they want to continue, you know?
Yes. Well, you know, Mi Amor Gala is our pure volunteers.
Oh. Pure
volunteer, pure passion. I didn't have no money at all to start this gala 6 years ago. And but I was passionate about it. And I've been my friends and friends of their friends and friends of their friends. And I have like 200 people in this beautiful gala. And I have so many volunteers. It was amazing. So I call it a snowball of kindness. So I do believe in volunteers. I do believe in kindness.
Absolutely. Anything else from Molly? Any other questions do we have out there on Facebook? People are shy. They usually come after. Okay, I think that's all the questions we have for now, which is fine because we are nearing 5 o'clock. So again, I wanted to thank you all so much for being on. And again, so
thank you.
Our event that we're doing May 25 at the People's Improv Theater, I'd love if all of you can attend, be involved. We're going to be raising money. We're going to be supporting. We're going to be talking about this topic. In fact, on the entertainment segment, I do have a playwright. I have a lot of female playwrights that write to me, and I have one that just finished a play on sexual abuse in the military. So she might be doing a reading. It's just something we're all passionate about it. So again, May 25th, all that information is on the Warrior Women in Business page. For the audience on Facebook, I will be providing, and Molly will be providing all of the resource links that these ladies gave us. Really important. It was NYC Hope, yeah?
NYC Hope, yeah.
Hope for our local folks. And Catherine, what was the one group what's one group that you would say is most important for people to know about on your end?
Futures Without Violence, because they have a link to all the other resources.
Okay, great. So, so we'll be providing all of this information. And again, I want to thank you, ladies. Again, you know, my mission here is to help, not just, again, it's a bigger issue. And I think, you know, you all provided such great content today and information. And I hope that the people listening take action, and they're warrior women as well. So again, thank you all very much. And we're signing off.
Thank you, darling, for having me. And nice to meeting you, ladies, Kathleen and Jasmine.
Okay, thank you. Signing off from Warrior Women in Business, episode 22. Tune in next week for episode 23. Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.